There are moments in life when someone walks in and everything changes. Not because they stay forever, not because everything suddenly makes sense, but because in the very first instant, they awaken something dormant within you. It's not logical. It doesn't follow rules. It's a strange feeling, somewhere between the familiar and the unreachable, between excitement and frustration, between the longing to move forward and the painful certainty that you can't. This person is not just anyone. They're not a passing fling or a casual connection. No, this is someone who seems to read your soul without even trying. They appear at a time when you thought everything was under control, when life felt predictable, and suddenly it isn't. Their presence shakes your foundations. What you thought was healed begins to ache again. What you believed was over becomes an open wound. Carl Jung once said that there are no coincidences. What we often call chance is, in truth, the way the soul encounters exactly what it needs in order to evolve. Seen through this lens, that person who disrupts your emotional stability isn't a mistake. They're a message, a call, a sign. But that call doesn't always bring comfort. Sometimes it hurts, deeply, because you realize you can't be with them. There are obstacles, distances, impossible differences. Life seems to offer you something extraordinary, only to slam the door shut before you can reach it. And that's when the real question begins to echo through your mind and heart. Why would the universe show me something so powerful, so meaningful, so real, if I can't have it? Most people respond with anger, denial, or grief. And that makes sense because the soul recognizes that connection as something sacred. But Jung challenges us to go beyond the romantic narrative. He invites us to understand that not everything that touches our soul is meant to stay. Sometimes it came only to show, to reflect, to awaken. That impossible person might have shown up to reveal what you truly long for, what remains unhealed, what part of yourself you had long forgotten. They become a mirror, one you can't ignore, a mirror that neither flatters nor destroys you, but simply exposes you. And in that exposure, something profound is revealed, because what you thought you were seeking in the other person is actually what your soul is yearning to find within yourself. Jung said it clearly: what you resist persists. What you accept transforms. So perhaps the real question is not, why can't I be with this person? But what part of me is being called to awaken through this encounter? Because the universe is not playing games. It isn't punishing you. It's not being cruel. The universe arranges encounters that your mind cannot understand, but that your soul has secretly begged for. And so, the journey begins, but it's not a journey toward the other person. It's a journey toward yourself. Carl Jung devoted much of his work to one of the most powerful concepts in psychology, the shadow, the hidden part of our psyche, where all that we reject, suppress, or fear lives. The shadow never vanishes. It waits in the depths, silently, until the right moment comes. And often, it reveals itself not from within, but through the presence of someone else. That person who comes into your life and unravels you, who stirs emotions you didn't know you were capable of feeling, who touches parts of you that no one else has ever touched. They are often a direct reflection of your own shadow. It's not coincidence, it's symbolism. Jung called it projection. You see in the other what you have not yet been able to see in yourself. When someone shows up and causes a storm of fascination and pain, you are standing in front of an emotional mirror. Maybe that person has a confidence you crave. Maybe they embody a freedom you've suppressed, or an emotional intensity you've taught yourself to hide. And in that moment, your soul is activated, not by what the other person does, but by what they reflect back to you. And this is where things get deeper, because it's not about a tragic love story. It's about a confrontation with the parts of you that have been buried for years. Jung believed that meaningful encounters are never random. They are archetypes in motion, symbolic expressions of internal processes that you haven't yet understood. So, when someone you cannot be with walks into your life and shakes your entire world, it's very likely you're standing before an archetype of transformation. And transformation is rarely comfortable. It demands that you face what you don't want to see. It brings up your need for approval, your fear of abandonment, your tendency to search outside yourself for what you failed to nurture within. And this is perhaps the most important truth of all. You cannot be with that person, not because something is broken, but because you are not yet able to hold the energy that connection activates in you. It is a painful paradox. Your soul recognizes something sacred, but your ego is not ready to integrate it. And that tension breaks you open. You chase it. You try to forget it. You fall apart. But Jung offers another path, the path of consciousness. It's not about clinging or dramatizing. It's about seeing clearly. He invites us to observe the connection without idealizing it, to feel the pain without turning it into a tragedy, to understand that the appearance of that person in our lives is not a punishment or a loss, but a calling, a message, a moment designed to wake us up. Because it's precisely when we stop resisting the impossibility of a relationship that the true alchemy begins. That's when transformation starts to unfold, quietly, from within. You begin to understand that this person didn't come into your life to complete you. They came to reveal something vital, something long buried. And that revelation, even if it hurts, even if it tears something open inside you, is the first step toward your liberation. When someone affects us deeply, it's rarely about what they do. It's about what they awaken in us. According to Jung, these people function like emotional mirrors. They reflect hidden corners of our psyche, unhealed wounds, suppressed desires, forgotten pain. And they don't do this intentionally. They simply exist. And their presence alone is enough to activate those sleeping parts of ourselves. Maybe this person makes you feel alive for the first time in years. Maybe you feel seen, as if your soul is being witnessed. Maybe the connection feels intense, electric, destined. But here's the truth. Intensity is not always proof of true love. More often than not, it's a sign of something deeper, a dormant wound that has finally been touched. Emotional wounds often form in childhood, in moments when we lacked the love, the safety, the validation we needed most. And because we were too young to process that pain, we tucked it away. We buried it in the shadows of our unconscious, where it remained, silent, but far from inactive. Then, years later, seemingly out of nowhere, someone appears, someone with whom you cannot be, but who seems custom designed to reopen that wound. Why does this happen? Because the soul is not interested in comfort. It's interested in healing. And in order to heal, we must first remember. And in order to remember, something or someone must awaken that dormant memory. Jung explained that the unconscious does not speak in logic or words. It speaks through symbols, through emotions, through synchronicities, and often an impossible love becomes one of the most powerful languages the unconscious can use to say, "Look here, something inside you is asking to be seen." So the question is not, how do I forget this person? The real question is, what part of me is crying out for recognition? Maybe it's the part that always prioritized others over itself. Maybe it's the part that never felt enough. Or maybe it's the part that learned to associate love with absence, struggle, or sacrifice. And that person, that impossible love, comes to represent all of that. A promise of something you were conditioned to believe you could never have. Or a symbolic repetition of old, unresolved family dynamics that your psyche is now begging you to revisit and integrate. Jung spoke of individuation as a path toward wholeness, a journey in which fragmented parts of the psyche are reintegrated into a more conscious self. And very often, that journey doesn't begin with clarity or peace. It begins with a rupture, with a crisis, with a love that cannot be. Because it's precisely when the soul meets its most painful reflection that it also meets its greatest potential for transformation. Not by running away, not by clinging, but by staying with the experience, feeling it, observing it, without judgment. The true purpose of this person is not to stay with you. Their purpose is to help you stay with yourself, to help you touch that wound with compassion, to show you that what you've been looking for in others has always lived within you. And when you start doing that, when you begin to truly stay with yourself, something profound shifts. You no longer need the other person to stay, because for the first time, you are staying. You are showing up for yourself. From Jung's deep perspective, the connections that shake us the most are never mistakes. They are never coincidences. They are manifestations of the soul trying to become whole. And sometimes, wholeness doesn't come through union. It comes through separation, through heartbreak, through letting go. When someone bursts into your life, takes over your thoughts, ignites your emotions, and yet remains unreachable, the ego suffers. Because the ego wants to possess, it wants to control, it wants to fix. But the soul, no, the soul has a different agenda. The soul doesn't want to control, it wants to expand, it wants to grow. And for that, it needs experiences that challenge the known, that break the mold, that force us to look deeper than we ever dared. That someone you cannot be with, that impossibility, is not an error in your story. It is the rupture of your old script, a disruption of everything you thought love was supposed to look like. They don't fit into your plans, they don't follow your timing, but they leave a mark, a trace. And in that trace, your transformation begins. Jung said that there are moments when the soul speaks so loudly it can no longer be ignored. One of those moments is when love arrives in the form of impossibility. Because in that moment, the soul asks, did you really believe you knew what love is? Are you willing to look beneath desire? Can you endure the pain of not having without losing yourself? That's the true initiation. And while most people run, rationalize, minimize, distract, some choose to stay. Not in the relationship, but in the emotional process. And those who stay, those who dare to sit in the fire, find a door. Not a door to the other person, but a door to themselves. Impossibility is an alchemical fire. It burns illusions. It melts projections. It destroys fantasy. And what's left behind is a raw, luminous truth, one that only emerges when the false self dissolves. That thing you most long for in the other, it's something your own soul is trying to birth in you. That person didn't come to give it to you. They came to remind you. They came to awaken the inner quest, to spark a journey back to your essence. And here lies the beautiful paradox. The more you accept that you cannot be with them, the closer you come to yourself. The less you fight to control the bond, the more profound the lesson becomes. Because the soul doesn't need the other to stay. The soul needs you to awaken. And sometimes it uses love as bait. A love that can't be fulfilled, to pull you deeper, to strip you bare, to bring you home. So instead of asking, why can't I be with them? Maybe the question becomes, what part of me is being reborn through this experience? What am I learning about my ability to love without possessing? What is the universe trying to show me that I can't see from the limited view of my ego? The answers don't always come quickly, but if you can stay with the discomfort, if you can resist the urge to escape, to numb, to forget, you'll see. That person didn't come to show you what you lack. They came to show you what's already inside of you, waiting to be seen, honored, and embraced. There is something deeply transformative in loving without obtaining, in feeling without possessing, in desiring without needing to control. And sometimes it is the most impossible of loves that lead us to the most profound encounter of all, the one with ourselves. Carl Jung knew it. These kinds of experiences shake us to our core. They wake us up, pulling us out of our emotional numbness. They place us face to face with the raw mystery of being human, with an intensity that few things in life ever achieve. Because when you can't have that person, you also can't run from yourself. Deep down, impossible love is a catalyst. It didn't come to complete your love story. It came to dismantle it. It came to take away the script you were holding on to show you that everything you thought you needed from the other was actually a call inward, a mirror, a sacred disruption. Many people try to shut down these stories too quickly. They put a label on them. It wasn't meant to be. They didn't love me. It didn't work out. And yes, that might be true on the surface. But if you stop there, you miss the most important gift. And that gift isn't in how the story ends. It's in what it awakens within you. Jung spoke of archetypes as the bridges between the conscious and the unconscious. And these intense connections, even the brief, impossible, or contradictory ones, are deeply archetypal. They activate inner figures in us: the wounded lover, the abandoned child, the savior, the pursuer, the unreachable ideal. And all of them are parts of you. Every one of them belongs to your psyche. The person you can't be with functions like a living symbol, a trigger for all these sleeping aspects of yourself that are now longing to be seen, to be felt, to be known. You're not obsessed with that person. You're under a spell, captivated by what they represent. And that is the space that needs your exploration. That's where the real inner work begins. What parts of yourself have you projected onto them? What emotions are you only willing to feel when that person is around? What pieces of your identity have been waiting for someone else to choose them? And why do you feel that only this person could ever do that? When you begin to look from that angle, everything shifts. It's no longer about forgetting or moving on. It's about integration, about allowing this experience to reshape you, about letting the pain turn into clarity, letting the longing become a compass, pointing inward. And that's when impossibility stops feeling like punishment and starts revealing its true purpose: revelation. You're no longer stuck in the waiting. You've returned to yourself. You're growing from within now. You're remembering that you never truly needed someone else to give you what you hadn't yet given yourself. The universe didn't make a mistake by sending you that person. It knew you wouldn't be able to keep them, but it also knew that through that very impossibility, you'd finally come home to yourself. That's the paradox of sacred encounters. They're not meant to last, they're meant to awaken. And there comes a moment in these stories when the pain is still there, but something inside you has transformed. You no longer beg, you no longer chase, you no longer wait. Not because you stopped feeling, but because you now understand what that encounter came to reveal. Your soul had been crying out to be seen, and the universe, through that impossible person, didn't deny you love. It showed you all the places where you weren't loving yourself. It uncovered your wounds disguised as desire. It mirrored your fears through absence. It brought you to your knees so that you would stop searching outside and start building something real inside. And then comes that moment of profound clarity, when you understand that this was never about getting the other person to change, to return, or to choose you. It was about you choosing yourself, you staying, you holding yourself fully, even in your neediness, in your craving, in your emptiness, loving without clinging, desiring without control, surrendering to the lesson hidden in the ache, because that's where the real transformation happens. Carl Jung spoke of the self as the totality of the psyche, the integration of light and shadow, desire and renunciation, love and pain. To Jung, the self is not just the conscious identity we cling to, but the deeper wholeness that we uncover when we confront all that we are, even the parts we've learned to deny. And often, it's the impossible relationships, the ones that break us open, that guide us more directly to this place of truth. These experiences don't come to destroy us. They come to tear away the illusions and rebuild us from a space more authentic, more grounded in who we really are. When we stop clinging to the belief that a certain person had to stay in our lives forever, something unexpected begins to emerge. It's not indifference or numbness. It's a quiet peace, a strange sense of calm, a kind of mature acceptance. This doesn't mean the feelings are gone. It means that you've begun to understand. You've understood that not everything that touches your soul is meant to remain in your life. Some people arrive not to stay, but to awaken a memory, to stir something you had long forgotten, to open a space within yourself that only you can inhabit. And in the end, you realize the real relationship was never about that other person. It was always about you. They were the mirror, the catalyst, the symbol. The true journey has always been inward. And when you can hold love without trying to own it, you become free. When you can feel gratitude for what never came to pass, you become wise. When you can release someone without closing your heart, you become whole. That's when it hits you. The universe didn't make a mistake. That person, with all their limitations and all the impossibility they brought, was a gift, a teacher, a spark of light that illuminated the darkest corners of your emotional night. And though they didn't stay, they left behind something eternal, a part of yourself that had been dormant, now awakened, a deeper version of you finally emerging into the light. If this message touched something deep within you, if it stirred emotions you hadn't allowed yourself to feel in a long time, then don't let it fade into the background noise of your day. You didn't arrive here by accident. That ache, that question, that trembling in your chest, it's your soul responding. So take a breath, let it in, and if you're ready to keep digging, to keep unraveling what has been hidden, to keep waking up, then this is your place. subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell. Not because it's what everyone says, but because something inside you already knows this journey is far from over. It's just beginning. And we're not here to offer you pretty words or easy answers. We're here to explore the truths that hurt but heal, the wounds that break but free. This space is for the ones who dare to feel, even when it burns, for the ones who are tired of pretending, for the ones who want to transform rather than just cope. Subscribe and allow this channel to be your mirror, your challenge, your companion. Because the work of the soul is not done in isolation. It's done in reflection, in community, in brave silence and radical honesty. And don't forget to turn on that bell icon so you don't miss what might be the exact message you need to hear, right when your soul is ready to receive it. This isn't entertainment. This is awakening. Let's walk it together.